Hey friends, Pastor Paul here. I want to share with you an update from last week's Bible study. We looked at 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. In chapter 2, Paul continues his message to the Thessalonians, this time seeking to answer some questions that people may have had about if he was truly dedicated to the cause of ministry. Now, you'll remember from Acts chapter 17 that he and Silas had to flee in the middle of the night after they were facing some great persecution. And undoubtedly, that may have left questions in people's minds. Was Paul dedicated to the gospel that he brought? And so he answers this by using a number of different images. First of all, he uses the image of a herald. He says that they've been entrusted with a message from God, and his first desire is not to go and curry favor with the Thessalonians or to exploit them or anything like that. It is actually to please God, and that idea of pleasing God would have been verified as Paul and Silas and Timothy worked in their midst. The next image that Paul uses is one of a nursing mother, where he talks about how he was sharing of himself with them, and his care for them similar to that tender image of a mother nursing her child, one of nurture, one of care, and one hoping for growth. And finally, he uses the image of a father. And he says here of a father that a father encourages, comforts, and urges you to live lives worthy of God. So he sees this fatherly role that he takes on as one that is setting a model for these believers. And so even though he had to flee, he did these things to show how much he cared. And he thanked God because God has been present this whole time, and God has been at work in them, sustaining them through a time of suffering. And so he encourages them to stay faithful as they look forward, and as it says at the end of the chapter, that their persecution is not unlike that other believers were facing as well. He does make a note here about the persecution that they are facing, that they, who have converted, are facing. And it's important to note here that some have historically taken this as a text that says, well, here it is, here's reason to speak against the Jews, and look at what they did. They killed Jesus, they're persecuting the church. But Paul has a great love for the Jews. You can see that he has pride in his Jewish heritage in the book of Philippians. If you look at the book of Romans, he has a great heart for the conversion of the Jews. And in fact, go back to Acts 17, and who does he speak to first when he gets to Thessalonica but the Jews? So even though there is a judgment coming for the Jewish people, which may be some of the hardship they were already facing, or looking ahead to prophetically what Jesus was talking about with the destruction of the temple in AD 70. Our gospel call, and we're reminded of this, is that we are called to love. The chapter ends, and it serves as a bridge into chapter 3, which we'll look at this week. The chapter ends with answering questions. Well, okay, we see you have a heart for ministry, but why is it that you have not yet come back? And Paul specifically says that they've not been back because of, well, as it says in verse 18, for we wanted to come to you, certainly I, Paul, did, and again, but Satan blocked our way. Still, this disconnect has been hard on Paul and the others, and he uses the language of being orphaned. Remember how Paul just used the language of being like a parent to them, a mother and a father. And so now he's using the language of being orphaned. And so the desire in Paul's heart has been to reunite. They may be out of sight, but they're not out of mind. But like a parent ripped away from their child, that's how Paul feels right now with the Thessalonians. And so we look into chapter 3 now, and that's what we'll be doing this week in Bible study. Hope to see you there.